Welcome to Acceptance Criteria lecture. Acceptance criteria details just what needs to be done for the PBI to be considered complete. On your screen you can see 7 tips for writing good acceptance criteria. This helps team estimate, test, and accomplish their work. The concept of acceptance criteria and definition of done sound very similar, right? But they are quite distinct. The acceptance criteria is what the customer needs, and they are unique for each user's story and define the feature behavior from the end user's perspective. Well-written acceptance criteria help avoid unexpected results at the end of the development stage and ensures that all stakeholders and users are satisfied with what they will get. And the definition of done is what the organization needs. So if you have acceptance criteria built into the user story or PBI, we know exactly what kind of hoops to jump through. We know exactly what gates need to be closed and completed before they can be moved to done. Acceptance criteria should be clear about what needs to be done for the work to be considered complete. But they shouldn't spell out how or be so prescriptive that they eliminate creativity. The acceptance criteria for PBI need to have just enough information that the team understand what needs to be done. Because we are not robots. We know how to do work. Bringing just information so the team understand what is needed to be done at the end of the sprint is more than enough. Depending on the type of story you are dealing with, depending on the type of work you are doing, there are different types of acceptance criteria and the ways to write those out. Ultimately, it is the service of the team to be able to avoid the worst case scenarios, but still have the freedom to choose between many best case scenarios. So acceptance criteria main purpose is to clarifying the stakeholders' requirement in a high-level goal. To make the purpose of acceptance criteria clear, let's break them down. Future scope articulation. Acceptance criteria defines the boundaries of the user stories. They provide precise details on functionality that helps the team understand whether the story is completed and works as expected. Describing negative scenarios. Your acceptance criteria may require the system to recognize unsafe passwords input and prevent a user from proceeding further. Invalid password format is an example of so-called negative scenario when a user does invalid input or behaves unexpectedly. Acceptance criteria defines these scenarios and explain how the system must react to them. Setting communication. Acceptance criteria synchronize the vision of the client and development team. They ensure that everyone has common understanding of the requirements. Developers know exactly what kind of behavior the feature must demonstrate, while stakeholders and the client understand what's expected from the feature. Streamlining acceptance testing. Acceptance criteria is the basis of the user story acceptance testing. Each acceptance criterion must be independently testable and thus have a clear pass or fail scenario. They have also be used to verify the story via automated tests. Feature estimation. Acceptance criteria specify what exactly must be developed by the team. Once the team has precise requirements, they can split user stories into tasks that can be correctly estimated. Acceptance criteria types and structures. Acceptance criteria can be written in different formats, and there are 2 most common ones, and the third option is to devise your format. So first one is service-oriented, with given, when, then. Rule-oriented, which is a checklist, and custom formats. So the first and the second format have very specific structures. The scenario-oriented format of writing acceptance criteria is known as a given, when, then type. So given some precondition, when I do some action, then expect some result. This approach provides consistent structure that helps testers define when to begin and end testing a particular feature. It also reduces the time spent on writing test cases as the behavior of the system is described upfront. Now, each acceptance criteria written in this format has following statements. Scenario, so the name of the behavior that will be described. Given, the beginning state of this scenario. When, specific action that the user makes. Then, the outcome of the action is in when, and used to continue any of the three previous statements. So when combined, these statements cover all action that the user takes to complete the task and experience the outcome. Now let's see the scenario-oriented example. This is our user story. As a standard user, I want to be able to recover the password from my account so that I'd be able to access my account in case I forgot the password. So our scenario is forgotten password. Given the user that has navigated to the login page. When the user selected forgot password option and entered a valid email address to receive a link for password recovery. And then the system sent the link to entered email. Given the user received the link via email, when the user navigates through the link received in the email, then the system enables the user to set a new password. Now the rule-oriented acceptance criteria format. The rule-oriented form entails that there is a set of rules that describes the behavior of the system. Based on these rules, you can draw a specific scenario. Now let's see one example. Our user story is, as a standard user, I want to use a search field to type a city, name or street so that I could find the matching hotel options. So basic search interface acceptance criteria is the search field is placed on the top bar. The search starts once the user clicks search. The field contains a placeholder with a gray color text, "Where are you going?" The placeholder disappears once the user starts typing. Search is performed if a user types in a city, hotel name, street, or all combined. Search is in English language. The user cannot type more than 200 symbols. And the search does not support special characters. If the user has typed a special character, show the warning message, search input cannot contain special characters. Tips for writing acceptance criteria. Each product backlog item or user story should have at least one acceptance criteria. Don't take writing acceptance criteria lightly or think of skipping it. Acceptance criteria is written before implementation. This is obvious and yet frequently missed by teams. If you write acceptance criteria after the implementation, you will miss the benefits. Each acceptance criteria is independently testable. Why shouldn't it be? Acceptance criteria must have a clear pass-fail result. If you decide to write complex and long sentences, you can do it, but at your own risk. It focuses on the end result, what, not the solution approach, how. Include functional as well as non-functional requirements. Team members write acceptance criteria and the product owner verifies them. It confirms the product owner and the team have a shared understanding of the user story. Now here is an example of definition of done and acceptance criteria combined together. So definition of done is no critical and high defect will be accepted. Code coverage percentage should be at least 70%. All web pages to load under 2 seconds. And acceptance criteria for this, the password must be no less than 8 and no greater than 12 characters, contain at least one uppercase letter and a lowercase letter, and at least one number. So think definition of done as the macro level and acceptance criteria at the micro level.